everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, where we'll be taking a first look at our upcoming release, SIMUL8 2020. I'm Fiona Lindsay, and I'm a product manager here at SIMUL8, and I can't wait to give you a sneak peek into some of the fantastic new features. But just before we get started, there are a few bits of housekeeping I want to make you all aware of. To reduce background noise, all attendees have been placed on mute for the entirety of the session. However, we do welcome all your questions, so should you have one, you can send us your question at any point during the webinar using the chat panel provided. At the end of the webinar, we'll do our best to answer all your questions. However, if there are any that we do not get to, we will follow up with you after the session. So without further ado, let's get started. It's been a very busy and exciting year for the team here at SIMUL8. First off, SIMUL8 celebrated 25 years of helping you, our users, transform your processes using simulation. And if that wasn't enough to celebrate, we also launched SIMUL8 for the web, making us the first industry vendor to provide the same powerful building experience in the cloud as in desktop. We've also released new features and improvements continuously throughout the year, all of which have been voted for by our annual maintenance customers. And now we're getting ready to release even more new features as part of our SIMUL8 2020 release in January. Today, I'm going to be showing you 3 of these features, but there will be many other features and enhancements included in the final release. So the key features I want to show you today are all focused on data connections. Across all industries and sectors, businesses are getting much more access to a wealth of data, and with that has come an increasing amount of tools and techniques that help us manage that data. Throughout the year, more and more of our users have been talking to us about building technology stacks. They want the ability to seamlessly link all their applications that collect, combine, analyze, and show the value of their data. And that's the reason that I've chosen these features to demonstrate exactly that. So first up is Google Sheet connections. As I mentioned, we launched SIMUL8 for the web, and with the adoption of cloud-based tools increasing, you're now going to be able to seamlessly connect your data from Google Sheets to SIMUL8 and from SIMUL8 to Google Sheets. This opens up much more opportunities for collaborative working on scenarios to sharing your simulation results. So let's take a look at how to set up SIMUL8 to connect to Google Sheets. I have a simulation open here in SIMUL8 for the web. And the main experiment for this simulation is the weekly production schedule. I've built this to be included within my internal spreadsheet in SIMUL8, but now I want to be able to connect this schedule to a Google Sheet where my colleagues can interact with it and import different experiments. To access Google Sheets, simply select the Data and Rules tab. And under External Data Sources, you'll now see the Google Sheets icon. If I open up Google Sheets, you'll see it resembles the Excel connections. And if I select New, again, it's a similar dialog to that to be able to connect to Excel. The main difference being that instead of entering a file path to your Excel file, we're going to enter a spreadsheet URL where our Google Sheet is. So I'm going to flick to another tab where I have my Google Sheet, and you can see I've got 2 worksheets here with different schedules. I'm going to copy my URL, and I'm simply going to paste this into here and select Connect. SIMUL8 then automatically connects to that Google Sheet and will populate a list of sheet names that you've given access to. So I'm going to select the baseline scenario. I then need to define the internal spreadsheet where I want that data to be imported to, which is input data. Next, I want to look at the data flow. For this example, I'm going to show you how to import from Google Sheets, but as you can see, you can also export information out to Google Sheets. There's also advanced settings where it gives you a little bit more control about how to import the data. As you saw in my internal spreadsheet, my schedule is on row 14, so I'm going to define that and select OK. And that's me set up my first Google Sheet connection. To import the data, I can then select that connection, select import, and I can now go to my input data where I can see that my schedule has now been updated. So let's just look at that again, but this time we'll bring in the schedule too. So again, I'm going to open up Google Sheets, create a new connection, paste in my URL, connect to Google Sheets, select my alternative sheet name, select my internal spreadsheet, and ensure it's going to be pasted into the correct row. Select that connection, import, and I can now see that that's also updated. Where this functionality really comes into its own is when using it on the web, and you can simply flip between tabs and start editing your data live and then re-importing into SIMUL8. So I can simply change some of my schedule data here, flip back to SIMUL8 online, import my connection, and I can see that it's now updated. Next up is our enhanced SQL connections, which are now compatible with SIMUL8 for the web and SQL servers. With the rise of digital twins and IoT, we've seen more users not only wanting to populate their simulations with ever larger data sets, but also to be able to do this in real time. That's why we've introduced a new and improved setup wizard and syntax builder to help you build multiple connections and queries without the need to use visual logic, and you can do this in both desktop and the web versions. So let's take a look at how to set up data connections using this new functionality. I'm just going to open a new simulation. Now, this is the same simulation that we were looking at, but in this case, now what I want to do is to be able to pull data from my ERP system. So I want to be able to pull my schedule in from my ERP system on a daily basis. Like with Google Sheet connections, SQL connections are on the Data and Rules tab under External Data Sources. So I'm going to open up SQL, and again, the interface is similar to ensure the continuity between all our external data source links. I'm going to select a new connection. My database is stored on a server, so I'm going to import or write my server name. I'm going to define the port and the database name that I want to connect to. And like with many databases, for security reasons, the database is password protected. So if this is the case, then simply enter your credentials into this area. You hit test connection. When it's successful, SIMUL8, like with Google Sheets, will have populated that drop-down list with a list of tables that you can connect to. I'm interested in the products table. And again, I'm now going to define where I want that data to come into. So I've set up an internal spreadsheet for real time. And again, like Google Sheets, I can control the data flow. So again, I want to import from my database, but you can also export out to a database should you want to store large amounts of results. I'm going to select OK. I'm going to reselect that connection, import, And now if I go to my real-time spreadsheet, we can see it's pulled in all the data from my ERP system. Where SQL connections really come into their own though, is being able to write queries in order to filter the data that you're bringing in. So like I mentioned, the goal of my simulation here is to be able to run the simulation daily based on a daily schedule that I'm pulling from my ERP system. So I don't want to import all that detailed information for every order that's come in for the last week. I only want to import in today's expected orders. So I'm going to reopen my SQL connection, and instead of import all, I'm going to select custom, which allows me to write an SQL query. If you're not familiar with SQL, you can use our SQL editor to simply populate your query. So what I want to do here is select all where it equals 2. And I'm just going to make sure that this equals the database table products. I also am going to select to clear the internal spreadsheet before import. If I'm running this daily, I want to make sure that I've got rid of any information from the previous day in my internal spreadsheet. So now I'm going to select OK, select my connection, import, and if I go to my spreadsheet, we can see that it's only pulled in objects in the database that have a day value of 2. Next, I want to talk to you about process mining. Process mining has been around since about the early 2000s, and we've been following it very closely at SIMUL8, mainly because we see the huge potential of it to radically reduce the simulation build time for our users. However, even as recently as about 5 years ago, the data still wasn't available to make it viable for most people, but we've noticed that that's been rapidly changing. But before I demonstrate this feature, let's talk a little bit about what process mining is for those of you who may not be aware. So process mining takes event logs of data that are produced by ERP systems, SAP systems, Salesforce, or really any workflow management tools. And it takes those logs and it will automatically generate your as-is process for you. Not only does it give you an instant insight into what your real process looks like, but it also gives timing information about how long each step takes and even what resources were used to complete tasks. So as part of SIMUL8 2020, I'm delighted to say that we've added an integration with Disco, a process mining tool from Fluxicon, that will give you a seamless flow between those two tools. So how does it work? So you may have a transaction log or an event log for your system that might look something like this, where you have a unique case ID for the items going through your process. You have the activity that each of those items go through. You may have the resource that processed that particular item. And you've also got a start time and end time for that particular activity. So you can take all this detailed log information and import it into a tool like Disco, and it will magically create the process map for you as you see on screen. Within process mining tools, you can then play around with the process of discovery by looking at the most common activity paths and get true insight into what your process looks like. You can also explore the statistics for the data or summarize statistics for the data that you've put in, such as the number of cases over time and resource utilization. From these tools, you can export your process map as an XML file. And now what I can do within SIMUL8, I have an import option for process mining. I can select that XML, open it up, and SIMUL8 will automatically create all the objects that I need for my process. We have a start point, we have all the activities and queues as outlined in the tool, and an endpoint. Not only that, it's populated each of these activities with the stochastic timing information from the tool, as well as any routing percentages defined. This really reduces build time, and it means that within seconds, I've got a first pass simulation, which I can run and see items going through my process, and allows me to really focus on adding the more complex logic or what if scenarios in my simulation. So those are my 3 highlight features of SIMUL8 2020, but there are a couple of other announcements I'd like to share with you today. Alongside the 2020 release, we are also going to be releasing a beta of our sharing functionality for SIMUL8 on the web. Together with the enhanced data connections I've just shown you, this will allow you to seamlessly share simulations and results to your colleagues. This will be available to all SIMUL8 for the web users. However, if you don't have a SIMUL8 for the web account, but would like to be involved in the beta test, then please do get in touch with us after today's webinar, and we will notify you when the beta is available. We're really looking forward to getting all your feedback on this and the new features. But if you have any ideas or suggestions before that, then again, please feel free to get in touch with us. And it's not just new software features we've been introducing. A few weeks ago, we launched our new SIMUL8 community forum, which is just a great place for you to go to ask questions, get tips, or even share knowledge and experience with SIMUL8 users from around the world. Simply go to community.simul8.com to join today, and you'll get instant access to the community forum. This new forum is just one of many improvements we're going to be making to our support resources over the next few months, so please do stay tuned for more updates. So if you've enjoyed today's webinar and can't wait to access the features I've shown you today, here are some options on how you can get your hands on it. If you're an annual maintenance customer, you'll be one of the first people to access SIMUL8 2020, and you will receive an email on the 17th of December, which will give you all the details required to update your desktop. But if you've got a SIMUL8 for the web account, you don't need to wait for that email, or even for IT to upgrade your desktop version. Simply log in to online.simul8.com on the 17th of December, and you'll automatically have access to all those features I've shown today and more. So thanks for listening, everyone. And I think we've got some time left over to answer some questions. Please use the chat panel to ask any questions you may have, and I'm just going to look through the questions that have been coming in so far. So the first question I've got through is, will you also be adding support for Excel online connections? That's a great question, and I think it would be a fantastic addition to SIMUL8 and is already on our radar and being worked on. So yes, we will be adding that very shortly, so please do keep an eye out for that. Next question. Can I set up multiple external data connections at the same time? Yes, you can. So you could have Excel, Google Sheets, SQL connections, and they'll all work at the same time. So if you are creating a technical stack and have data in multiple sources, then you're able to do that. Does the process mining feature only work with Disco? Great question. At the moment, yes, we've partnered with Disco to make that integration. But if you let us know what other process mining tool you're using, we are happy to explore those connectivity options with you. Well, next question. Will SIMUL8 2020 be available for educational sites? Yes. SIMUL8 2020 will be available for educational sites. It is usually launched just after the term, so will be around the summertime when it will be available for educational sites. Next question, will you be releasing a native Mac application? Good question. At the moment, with the release of SIMUL8 for the web, we advise all Mac users to use that as the application to run SIMUL8. So, is there documentation on how to use the many features of SIMUL8? This would include samples and step-by-step examples. I found the learning SIMUL8 valuable in using SIMUL8, so will you have a similar book outlining the features? Like I mentioned, we're doing a large overhaul of our support resources on SIMUL8, and we're looking to drastically improve our online resources. If you've got any feedback on those online resources that we're releasing, then please do get in touch with us. But look out for the new support portal and e-learning coming soon. Will web be for development or just running experiments? Yes, the web, you can build your simulations as of today. All the features on SIMUL8 for the web are exactly the same as desktop. If you're sharing simulations, the shared simulations will be only runtime versions of SIMUL8. But if you have a SIMUL8 online account, you can build simulations on the web version today. How do I get SIMUL8 for the web? So SIMUL8 for the web is included with all new SIMUL8 2020 licenses. And if you are on older licenses but have annual maintenance, you also get access to SIMUL8 for the web as part of that. Okay, everyone, I think that's about all the time we've got for questions. But if you've got anything else you'd like to ask, need more information, or want to send us any feature ideas, then please do get in touch with our team using the URL on the screen there. I just want to say a big thank you again for attending today's webinar. I hope you all enjoyed the sneak peek into the SIMUL8 2020 release. And to all of you celebrating Thanksgiving tomorrow, we here at SIMUL8 hope you have a wonderful day with family and friends.